Hey guys, welcome to another edition of Josh Talks. I got a special guest this week. If you're familiar around Southern California, you know he is a staple of the history of pro wrestling out here. However, his fingerprints are on wrestlers and wrestling companies all over the world. He actually just recently even celebrated his 25th anniversary in the wrestling business. The owner of the Santino Brothers Wrestling Academy, where you see the shirt behind him, it is Mr. Joey Kaos hanging out. How are you, sir?
Hey Josh, how are you, man? Good, great having me on today. I really appreciate it. And hey, man, that was a great intro. And just when you mentioned it, 25 years, it reminded me. Oh yeah, 25 years. Yeah, just this past July 7th, 25 years ago, I wrestled Supreme in my debut match.
Your
So
debut
yeah.
match was Supreme.
Oh yeah, yeah, it was. Yeah.
Yeah, just the thought of it, because end of September will mark 15 years that I've
Nice.
been around, and that's like it's mind numbing to me to think that I've been doing these things for that long. What was the first thing when you realized it was the 25th, your 25th anniversary? What was the first thing that went through your mind of like, I've done this for 25 years now?
Yeah, right. A quarter century. I guess when I was younger, I was big on anniversaries. As I've gotten older, I haven't been huge on anniversaries. Don't tell my wife that. Um, but
Going
you
us
know,
down, no,
I we had our 10 year for Santino Brothers, and kind of didn't even do anything about it. I know everyone makes a big deal about this stuff, as you should. I just never been a big anniversary guy. I just keep going, keep grinding. But no, totally impressive on 25 years. Like it's it's a different feeling, especially with training the new guys at Santino Brothers Wrestling. I get everything from guys that are like I wasn't born when you started wrestling. My dad used to watch you and stuff like that, and I don't even feel too old. I'm 40.
You're not an old guy.
No, I guess I just got into it real early in a really young age. I think out here in Southern California for the first like maybe 6 or 7 years, I probably was the youngest wrestler in Southern California. And I think I started when I was maybe 14 or 15. And I don't think there came a younger person until it was like a 21-year-old or maybe an 18-year-old. I don't know, but man, it was many years of just being the smallest, which meant that I was the bump dummy, and being the youngest. But all I ever wanted to do in pro wrestling was hang out with my uncle. My Uncle Supreme. Whatever he was doing, that's what I wanted to do. So if he wanted to go and watch horror movies, as we did, or if he wanted to watch, basketball or football or play basketball, I wanted to do it with him. It just so happened that he loved pro wrestling. He loved the Road Warriors, and he loved Bam Bam Terry Gordy, and all those guys. And he loved wrestling so much that he got into it and said, "Hey, you want to come?" No plans to be a professional wrestler. I was just, hell yeah, I want to go. Like wrestling, I think everyone's first thing. I don't know about everybody's, but my thing was I hit the mat. Like, what does it feel like? Back in the mid '90s, what is a ring feel like? Is it a bed? Is it because it's fake? This, that, and the other. It's not fake. Blah blah blah. I wanted to hit the mat and I wanted to run the friggin' ropes. That was my main thing. And in the first day, I got a chance to do it, and I got a chance to take a lot of bumps. I think we took 60 plus bumps the first day, and totally not correctly either. But I fell in love with it. I fell in love, and I would get beat up saying I was the smallest guy. And so, hey, I want to try this new move, and and they didn't want to try it on Supreme or anybody else. So, hey, we tried on the smallest guy. I mean, it makes sense, it definitely makes sense. But yeah, I was the bump bunny, but I fell in love with it, and never had any aspirations of becoming a pro wrestler. I just thought it was really cool that we had the opportunity to quote unquote wrestle. Like, it was, hey, we're on the weekend, we're playing basketball. We're not going to become NBA players. You know what I mean? We're just playing basketball. So that was my whole thing, was just, this is cool. Supreme had a camcorder in the mid 90s. So man, we filmed everything. And that was cool enough for me, man. That was cool enough for me. It just so happened that the guy sent in Rob Craze, you know Rob Craze,
Yeah, yeah.
Craze One, and he sent in some video, and I thought he sent in video for him because he was the pro wrestler. You know, as far as I was concerned, he was the pro wrestler. He was the one that broke us in, showed us everything, you know, to get started and everything like that. And he was like, "No, I sent all of our stuff in." And I was like, "Yeah, okay, cool." Like, you know, well, maybe he needed to send our stuff in to show him, to showcase him.
Mhm.
And next thing you know, he calls us up and says, "Yeah, they want us to do the battle royal." And I'm thinking, why would they want us to do the battle royal? Like, my first thing was, we're not pros. Like, why would they want us to do the battle royal? This doesn't make any sense, you know? And we would go every week for about a year before this happened, and go to training in North Hollywood off of Coldwater Canyon, right there by the Jack in the Box. I think it was Sherman Way in Coldwater Canyon. There was a little ring there. And I don't remember it for any of the professional wrestling days. I think, you know, fast forward, my wife does the customs wrestling with Lucha Girls.
Yeah.
And I think it was a customs ring of some sort, because it was a pro wrestling ring. That was the one we broke into. We just paid the guy. We paid the guy. We didn't pay the guy. We left $5 there. And then I guess he came and picked it up during the week. And so Supreme and I would always have matches every week. And so Supreme said, "Hey, why don't you ask the guy if we can have a match?" And I'm like, "Dude, we shouldn't even be here doing a battle royal. Now you want me to ask the guy, should we have a match?" And, you know, he said, "Just ask him." You know, he's actually sitting we're at the Nickelodeon in Colton, California, and it's a pizza parlor. And he's sitting with his legs kicked up, drinking some beer, eating pizza. And I go and ask Thrashmaster, and I say, "Hey, man, you know, me and my Uncle Supreme will do a match every week for a year. Do you think, like, excuse me, sir, do you think it's possible that we can get a singles match?" And I thought, hell no. Like, get out of here. Get out of here. Thrashmaster was the coolest dude in the world. I didn't know that at the time, but he was like, "Sure, I'll put you guys on first." And I was like, get out of here. No way that now we're going to have a debut match at a place that I didn't think we belonged. And fast forward, and man, I don't know. I just fell in love with it, man. I still love it to this day, you know, and that's why I still do it on this level. Yeah. You know, never reaching, like, you know, the pinnacle or the highest level in professional wrestling, but I do it because I fucking love it, man.
You're going to give you a fantasy question here. You have access to a time machine. You go back to talk to yourself 25 years ago before your debut match. What are you gonna tell 25-year younger Joey Kaos as far as one sound piece of advice on what you'll learn over the course of the next 25 years?
Well, I mean, simply, this is a kind of an easy one. I mean, I would say definitely go to school, go to college, you know, because wrestling's still going to be there. And then at the other hand, I would say go to reputable school. I believe that I had a hard time because I got into it with no aspiration of trying to quote unquote make it until I was actually doing it and wrestling a part of XPW. Then I was like, you know, trying to make it. But I think there's a lot of gems and a lot of maybe mentorship and coaching that I missed that would have helped me along the way, down the line in my career, to be more open-minded, to not think to know that I don't know it all. Like, I thought I knew it. I'm 22 years old. Oh, I know it all, you know? Yeah. And I tell the guys today, I think that's what helps make me a great coach, is that, you know, every mistake that I've made in professional wrestling, I steer my students away from that. You know, I explain to them why you don't want to do this mistake, and, you know, always be ready, always be in shape, always ask questions, always, you know, try to get booked. No one's going to call you. Like, in my career, like, for as much that I've done, most of it was like, just, I got the call, I got an opportunity, right place, right time. It wasn't me really like pounding the phones the way I probably should have been, you know, back in the day. So that's probably the main thing. It would be to stay in school both ways, wrestling school and college. That would be my thing.
Well, speaking of wrestling school, obviously we had the Santino brothers. How did that all really come about? Because you're working, you're performing as a wrestler, And what made you at that point decide, you know what, I'm still going to be performing, still wrestling, but I also want to start getting my own school? Because we see some, wrestlers that, people might be familiar with on TV that decide, they're going to try to open up a school. Some do and successful, some it just kind of slithers away because they're busy doing other stuff, or some wait till they're, retired from regular in-ring competition. But you kind of juggled both. And what made you decide to start doing that?
Well, I mean, to be honest with you, like when I did the wrestling school, the way we started was I got a friend, Joey Rico Dynamite, and Joey Rico Dynamite, he actually went to the XPW Asylum. He was trained primarily by Dynamite D, and then I would come in and help him out and polish up. So he considers both of us our trainers. That's why his original name was Joey Rico Dynamite, and so his roommate also went to the asylum. He invested in a pro wrestling ring, put it in his backyard, and they had a good group of students. They had about 12 students that they were training for anywhere from 6 months to about a year at that point, maybe less, to be honest with you. And Rico called me up and says, "Hey man, do you think you can come down and help train the guys? And specifically like help me out. Like I've kind of taught them everything I know. Can you like kind of help them out from here?" And I told, as a trainer and coach nowadays, I totally know exactly what that feeling is like. And specifically, he wanted me to teach them a drop kick. And so I went down there in Norwalk, and I actually didn't have a car at the time. We would take like 2 buses. When I say we, it's me and Sylvia, my wife Sylvia. We would take like 2 buses and a train, like the Orange Line or something like that, and the Red Line in North Hollywood, just to get to Norwalk to help train these guys. And we did this for about, I don't know, 2 or 3 months. And we had a good amount of students. And back then, I was really hardcore coming from a young age. And when I say hardcore, different than what we do it now. Like it was about Supreme was there, I was there, and it was about beat their ass until they decide they don't want to do this anymore, right? Do they have what it takes to earn a spot in professional wrestling? And that's the way it is. That's the way it was. In a sense, that's still the way it is today. It's just a little bit differently. We don't beat their ass. We put them to work. We put them to hard work. But anyway, so we were training these guys, and so 3 months into it, February 2008, I decided, hey, I think maybe we should make this an official school. And I was throwing names around like maybe Full Contact Dojo. I knew for a fact I didn't want to call it like Chaos's House of Wrestling or anything like that. I didn't want to
House of Chaos. You didn't want the House of Chaos?
No, I just didn't want my name in it. It could have been House of Santino Brothers. That would have been cool. I just didn't want my name in it.
Sure.
And I wanted to be called Full Contact Dojo. And Mongo was totally against that. And we kind of like settled on looking at our t-shirts that we were wearing, and we had Santino Brothers t-shirts, Santino Brothers folders, Santino Brothers banners, Santino Brothers trunks, jackets, all kinds of Santino Brothers stuff. And we said, well, when we made Santino Brothers the tag team, I wanted to always sound like a wrestling company, Santino Brothers Wrestling, like, XPW Wrestling or whatever the case is. So Santino Brothers Wrestling was never supposed to be a Santino Brothers school. And so we decided, hey, let's just make that the academy, because we have all this print. We have t-shirts and everything. We can actually put banners up and have logos, and we have brand. Bongo was huge on branding. Now I'm huge on branding. You know what I mean? So, but Mongo was huge on branding at the time. And so that's why we settled on Santino Bros Wrestling. Our name is not Santino, nothing like that. It's just a wild tag team name that we had. And we decided to start this school. And, and to fast forward, what you said is like, I balance both. I actually made a point to say like, well, if I want to be the best trainer, then I can't moonlight as a trainer. And so I made a very conscious effort to, my wrestling career, to take a step back. And I think that if you can really tell from like 2008, I really kind of took a step back. A lot of the times I took bookings like at CWFH or even Mexican Wrestling Federation. A lot of the times I took the bookings to get the guys booked, because nobody knew who who we were, Santino brothers. Fast forward to today, it's a different story, you know. Like I got guys calling me up and asking for who's ready to come out, and you know, stuff like that. But yeah, that's why I would take those bookings. But I definitely, and I tell any trainer, if you want to be a trainer and you want to try to be a great trainer, you kind of pick one. Either you want your wrestling career or you want to be a coach. You know, that's like having Nick Saban for Alabama football team trying to be the player too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like he's either be the great coach or be a player. What's it gonna be? You know what I mean? So I decided to be the great coach, and I totally have regrets. I totally have. If you told me, if you were to do it different, oh, I probably would. You know, everyone says I wouldn't have done nothing different. Maybe I would have, to be honest with you. But that was the dedication. That was the sacrifice that I was willing to make. Obviously, not just for my students, but for myself and for the school. And I think that the school and the legacy, all I ever wanted to do, there was a real popular school out here named Slammers back in the day. All I ever wanted to do was just be as popular as Slammers, equally as popular. I think we passed them.
Oh, you definitely
I just don't want to be the big head to say, oh yeah, because to me, Slammers is still the spot, man. Anyone that came from Slammers knew how to work. You know what I mean? And that was kind of my thing. I wanted that to be Santino brothers too, you know, since Slammers wasn't around. And Mongo came from Slammers.
Well, yeah. Well, you've had the school has appeared on all different, you know, like TV shows and web series and different things of people, you know, whether they're like looking into like trying what wrestling is. You know, it's been featured on Total Divas. You know, you've seen the school in like video packages with Ronda Rousey or, you know, whoever. So all of a sudden your school is internationally recognized because it's getting all this publicity. How does something like that really happen? I mean, like you happen to get a call and be like, hey, we want to use your school to film this thing? Or like,
You know,
how does like that work?
a lot of the WWE stuff came from Brian Kendrick. You know, my good friend Brian Kendrick, he used to train at a school out here in East LA called Pappy's Dome,
Mm-hmm.
Pepe Pineda. And they closed down, and he had hit me up and said, hey, you know, how much is it going to cost to do my school here? And we worked out a deal to where, you know, just have him come in because he totally has a passion to train wrestlers. You know, he has an incredible passion. Is a great guy, and he would have Total Divas come, and you know, he would just be like, hey, I just train. Do you want to rent the building? You got to call this number, and he would give our number, and we would work the deals out with, would be Total Divas or even Ronda Rousey, and I think that was the one is when Brian Kendrick was training Ronda Rousey, and she would come into the dojo, and it would warm my heart, right? Not just because it was just Ronda Rousey, that she would come in, world champion would come into my little dojo in East LA, Bell Gardens, California, right, to learn pro wrestling, and that's cool, right? She's gonna do that. She's with an A+ trainer, Brian Kendrick, but she would get the broom, and it was embarrassing too. She would get the broom and sweep the mat, sweep the wrestling ring. And I remember Sylvia telling her, no, you don't have to do that. And she was like, it's part of my therapy. This is what I do. This is what I do at my school. You know what I mean? And just like, and I'm over here, and I got guys that come in, ain't nobody in this business, trying to make it like, give you a dirty look, saying, hey, sweep the mat that you're about to roll on. You know what I mean? And you got Ronda Rousey trying to grab the broom from her, and she's like, no, man, this is what I do. This is what I do. And man, like she was just incredible. And I wasn't down there for the training, but I watched. We have surveillance cameras and stuff like that, and I watched the videos, and they were incredible. Like she like the training. She got to train with Eli Everfly, and Sasha Derevko and Brian Kendrick, and yeah, she was just incredible. And then, man, fast forward when she made her debut, man, they threw her training videos all over. They actually said they threw it on WrestleMania. And that was the big one when it was thrown up on WrestleMania, and then the next night, I think on Raw, it was thrown up there, and yeah, like just a lot of people. And I'd say like, no, we didn't train her. Brian Kendrick trained her. I try to make that very clear that, but, if you were to say, where did she get her start? It was Santino Brothers, and that's the fact, but that's what definitely really helped us out. And then, always being on Google. Mongo always had me to be on advertise on Google. And so we always get calls for all kinds of different gigs, man. We've had all kinds of wild gigs, music videos, TV shows. We've been on so many different TV shows, and not we, but the ring. And I always tell people the wrestling ring is the star of Santino Brothers, because that thing has been everywhere. I mean, I think they did a video with right before COVID started, was Stone Cold Steve Austin and Becky Lynch. We're in the ring together for, I think, maybe Stone Cold show or something like that.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, they drank beer. We could see the stains, But
and not just with them, but then you got like young up and coming stars that you see, like most recently, Jake Atlas in NXT, Eli Everfly. You mentioned he's wrestled down in Mexico. He's been on WWE programming. Famous B and Lucha Underground. Yeah. Like there are a number. And
Heather Monroe just showed up on AEW.
Heather Monroe.
Yeah, Brody King.
Dynamite this week. Yeah, Brody King. I mean, Bateman, I know has on there, as well as other places in Ring of Honor. So many of these talents that are now going to all these other wrestling promotions. I'm kind of curious. So like, you almost, as like their trainer, almost like their father figure, like, you're so happy watching them on these various programs. Besides, obviously, their health, which is always going to be the most important thing, as like almost like a concerned parent, what's like your one concern when like Heather Monroe on Dynamite this week? Like what is if there is any type of concern that you have on what you're hoping that does or does not happen?
Oh, I want, obviously I want to see them, do 20 times better than I've ever done in wrestling. That's totally my goal, number one. Obviously in this era, I do worry about, Heather Monroe, going out with the COVID era, but AEW is documented of taking care of the talents and everything like that. And I tell people, if I was younger and I didn't have responsibility of a school and other people, I probably would be out just trying to get mine and wrestle too, and one of the big reasons we have the school closed down is just the responsibility of other people, and it's just a whole different thing. If it was just me and my boys going and wrestling together, that's one thing. Yeah, let's open up the school again. But, we bring the public in. But yeah, I don't have too many concerns for the students themselves, besides just a lot of the times it's just letting them know to be patient. Be patient. I know you see things happening so fast, but to be honest, people watch you and your wrestling career happening so fast, and they envy what you're doing the same way you envy somebody else. So I think the biggest thing is that my concern is just, I want them just to have a little bit of patience, because, just even doing this, and I think Brody King said it. I think he's 5 years in, and 5 years in is still young.
Nothing.
Yeah, it's nothing. And I'm going to tell you, like 5-10 years in, he's going to finally go, wow, I didn't know anything. I think every wrestler said that at 10 years we go, wow, I didn't know anything when I started, or 5 years ago. And I continually say that. I didn't know anything for 5 years ago. And I think that's kind of like, that's life. That's what you want to do. I always want to try to keep growing and stuff like that. So that's the main thing I want my students to do, is just to honestly keep growing. I feel that we coach them well enough to know the ins and outs of professional wrestling. And I think that's what really helps them out. Because the honest truth is we're not a booking agency, and we don't go out there and help them get booked. To be honest, we help them get booked in the way of teach them how to get bookings and promote them and brand them all over our social medias. And I think that definitely helps a lot. And that probably does more than I actually think. But they get everything they've gotten is on their own, and that makes me even more proud, because to be a true pro wrestling slayer, you got to know the ins and outs, not just in the ring, and then have somebody help you get the bookings. You got to be able to do it yourself,
And not only as far as you teaching and helping these wrestlers. A few years ago, you started advocate classes, and I wanted to ask you about that, because I really find this fascinating, being that I've been in the business for long, but I'm not a wrestler. I would work as, I worked as a referee a little bit, and if I worked a show with Rick Knox, I would bug him. I'm like, please watch my match as a ref, give me notes, because I had to learn on the fly. If I'm doing commentary, I'm asking the promoter, you like listen, so I have an idea for notes, because I'm just kind of learning these things on the fly. Being a manager, the same thing, because you occasionally hear wrestling schools might have a promo class, but all of a sudden in your school, you're training refs, you're training managers, you're training ring announcers, you're training commentators. You would think more schools would do something like this, but and you found a way, and now it's enhanced so many more talents than what you were already setting up with wrestling. And I'm incredibly jealous, because I wish this was around 15 years ago. I would be like, I need this really badly.
Well, Josh, like, I have so many people hitting that would hit us up and say, "Hey, do you have ref classes or commentary classes?" Or, and then when I came up, it was like kind of like, if you couldn't cut it as a wrestler, then it would be like, well, can you ref? Like, what can you do to still be part of the business? Can you talk? Are you a commentator? This, that, and the other. And that was my always thinking behind it. Well, we don't have those classes, and a lot of people just kept asking about them. And then it also came to the point that, our entire production is, wrestling students. So at one point you might see, definitely you'll see on a show, Brody King is security, or Heather's got a camera, or Eli is a ref. Like, and you'll see that throughout the years in Santino Brothers. So all the wrestlers are production. And I just want them to learn everything in the business, because I always tell them, I was supposed to be the world champ, and now I'm training guys. So if I didn't learn how to train guys, then I'd be out of the business. You know what I mean? So you've got to learn everything. And so it came to the point where the guys started, like, wrestling. Oh, man, we had a great camera guy. Oh, yeah, well, he's wrestling now. Like, oh, okay, well, we had a great referee. Well, now he's gonna debut soon. And it came to that point where we would get these guys, and they'd be really good at it, but everybody came in and wanted to be a wrestler. So, and we had so many people asking about advocates that we decided, well, why don't we do an advocates class? Because they're not going to turn into wrestlers. Like, so maybe they want to be a referee, but maybe we don't have a referee spot, and we have a camera guy spot, or we have a commentary spot, or whatever the case is. And we realized, like, that really, like, kind of really enhanced our production value tremendously, because now you didn't have a wrestler moonlighting trying to do something, like, if somebody wanted it, and then I was surprised that just so many people came in, wanted to be production, not just I want to be a referee, or I want to be a manager or announcer, commentator. There's people that just said, I want to be behind the scenes. That's it. Like, I don't even want to be in front of the scenes. That's not my deal. That was kind of surprising for pro wrestling, because everybody wants to be in the middle of the ring holding the belt, And so we started doing that, and we had Jervis, Kevin Cassidy help. I don't know if I kayfabe that, but we had Jervis Cottonbelly helping us out with the advocates class, and he's tremendous at what he does, and he has all different types of things that he does, whether it's ad-libbing class, stuff like that. He's doing all kinds of stuff to kind of try to help you get and his started as a character class, but then he took over and did the first advocates class, and we turned over some really good advocates with Halston Body, who's doing managing, among other things, a CWFH. We have Adnan Kushley, who's doing announcing at New Japan, and then Kathy Caponelli, who she had a stint at NXT, and then for COVID she got furloughed. But she was doing a lot of different stuff. She was doing West Coast Wrestling. I think she did a pay-per-view by herself. And I told her, and I said, I think quietly last night you made history by calling a pay-per-view by yourself as a female. I said, I don't know if anyone's ever did that. I know that when Joey Styles did it, it was a huge deal back in the day when he called a pay-per-view by himself. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah. And so I said, I think you might have made history, but she's incredible. And for the most part, a lot of the guys come in and they have it. Like, that's what makes training and coaching people so easy, is the people that are so coachable, like Brody King, Heather Monroe, Eli Everfly, Jake Atlas, Kathy Caponelli, Adnan Halston is incredibly coachable. You know, when all these guys come in, they're so coachable, it makes my job easy. And I even tell them, it's like, I don't have to do anything. I just kind of gave you an opportunity and steered you in the right direction, you know. But they're forever grateful and proud of the Santino Brothers brand, the Santino Brothers school where they come from. And it's just something special that we kind of got brewing over here, and we're just kind of biting our nails and just waiting for a better time to open up. You know, we're optimistic right now about January. You know, so I've talked to a lot of my colleagues about, you know, some of the training that they're actually doing right now. Some guys had never even closed down during the whole COVID era. So we have our ideas, and I think we'll be comfortable ourselves because, you know, just like you said, like, I'm staying home. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But just, I think we'll be comfortable at least to start, you know, doing something in January and getting our building back. And obviously it won't be the same building, but, you know, in my eyes, let's get a better building. Let's get a bigger building, you know?
And you know, I've seen that you've, you know, promoted to do classes like over Zoom.
Oh yeah.
And I'm really intrigued by it because obviously, yeah, you can work on your promos, you can work on your character development, but you can't exactly work on taking bumps over Zoom.
No,
So
you can't.
So really, like, you know, what would the Zoom classes entail?
So we started Zoom with our alumni that we have right now, and you know it has been sometimes hit or miss on some of the classes. For the most part, the classes have been incredible and great. We'll be covering stuff like match psychology, how to break down a match, how to call a match on the fly, among things like also a seminar about selling. So we have so many different subjects that I didn't know if I'd be able to do them, you know. So I used my alumni as the guinea pigs and said, hey, well, let's do this Zoom class. And I would tell them straight out, like, hey, and I think I posted some of them up online and said, hey, you know, I don't know how this is going to go. And so for the most part, some of the classes have been really great and incredible. I think most people just like to watch the Zoom. They don't like to be interactive. I like that we have the opportunity to be interactive, but I've never talked. Like, I'm a pro wrestling coach, and I like to say that I'm a great pro wrestling coach, but when you go in there and you're training, you sometimes talk for 20 minutes, whether it's an opening or a beginner's class. You teach, for the most part, you teach them how to do the headlock or the lockup or whatever the case is. You give them an after class speech, but for never do I speak for 2 hours straight, you know? And so that was, I don't know if it was challenging for me or it was just intimidating for me. But we've been able to close up the 2 hours and get the classes done. And I even, you know, and I always tell the guys, you know, and I'll hit the guys up and I'll say, so what did you think of today's class? Honest feedback only. Now all of a sudden I'm the student,
Yeah.
you know, telling my students, hey, give me some feedback. What could I be better? What do you think we should have done? And so once I felt comfortable in doing that, I said, well, let's try to throw a class on Zoom. And it was really, let's see what happens, you know, let's see what happens. And the signups have actually been great. You know, I think we actually have about 13 people that are in the class. I said in my head, we're going to cut it off at 15. I think in our Zoom classes, we've had up to 25 on our alumni classes. So we could go up higher. I just want to make sure to give everybody the proper time. And the more students I take, it's just going to make it longer for me. But yeah, I'm actually only doing this one Zoom class. We're going to see how it goes. And I say probably one before we open up the dojo. As I was writing this curriculum and as we did the classes and I was writing the curriculum for this, and I said, man, I don't like, this is the stuff that we actually need, because when we go to the school and we go in the ring, like, I'm all about ring time. One of the most things was, that's why I put up the second ring, because I was like, everybody needs ring time. If they're here, they need to be in the ring. They need the repetitions. And sometimes I wouldn't give so much time to the talking. And now that I wrote this curriculum, I'm like, well, all these subjects need to be talked about for 2 hours on end. And these are the subjects that we'll talk about, like if you get to ride in a car with somebody, or you get to, you know, sit in the back and pick somebody's brain. And so these are all the subjects that we'll be covering. And I decided there's no reason why we shouldn't add this to our regular program. And so we're going to be adding the Zoom to our regular program where we actually will have time. There's no ring distraction. There's no distractions at all. It's just me and the students on Zoom, because these are the lectures and the talks and the seminars that they actually need, and it's going to help them go a long way.
And I mean, Joey, I can tell you just from my experience over all these years with working with various students of Santino's, I always, whenever anyone asks me about, where do people train, Santino's is the first place to come to my mind. Not because the wrestlers are good, because they are, obviously they're very talented. But what I love is how respectful they are. Like they've always been respectful with me. I've always seen them like respectful in the back with the other peers, like happy to help however they can, setting the ring up, tearing it down, whatever it may be. And it goes, I know, I think I've told you this story once upon a time, but since I got you face to face, I'm just going to do it again and embarrass myself. Because way back when I started, so my second ever booking, so this was in late 2005, it was for that wonderful, you'll remember, it was called Global Extreme Wrestling in Lancaster, California, Lancaster. That's where I first met you, where I first met Dee, first met Chris Kloss, who gave me the Christian Rosenberg name. Still don't understand how he came up with it, but it stuck. And, but I specifically remember, and I always talk about it because I literally only knew one person there. I was terrified because I'm like, I'm the new guy without any training because I just got thrown into stuff like I was telling you. And I remember, like, I'm not even 100% sure with how all the handshakes work. And so at that time, you would have been about a 10-year pro.
Yeah.
And I remember you and Dee specifically coming up to me, and you guys made me feel like I was a veteran because you guys were just just kind of respectful, greeting me, answering any questions I might have had. And I see that in all the students. And that just shows the type of knowledge that you're giving everyone. And since you've been around for 25 years, you know a thing or two. So I just, I want to commend you publicly.
Thank you.
For all that, because you always treated me well, and the guys and girls that I've gotten to work with that have come from your school have all, treated me with respect, and from what I've watched, treated, like their peers.
It's surprising that you say that because I must have been 24, and I always tell guys, oh, at 22 years old, Kaos was an asshole, and I wouldn't have been so nice. Now that I'm 42, I'm different. But I totally love to instill the old school mentality, and like I didn't have a school that I went to, but I was able to pick the brains of Mongo Santino and Dynamite D, who went to schools, and just about just about having respect for this business and everything that's involved in it. And I hear it. I hear people talk about, oh, you got to get respected and get paid for what you're owed, and hot dog and a handshake, and that's bullshit. And I tell the guys, hey man, you're a trainee trying to get booked. If someone gives you a hot dog and a handshake, that's fucking respect. Like, who the frig are you? Like, really? That's how it is. We're just trying to make a name for ourselves. And how many times, and this is how it is. You got to cut your teeth on open mic night for free in order to make a name for yourself. And that's how it goes. Yeah. And if you can't understand it, I think a lot of guys go in there, yeah, it makes sense. It makes sense to do that. And so it's like, hey, when you just go and stand around the corner and you don't help out, ain't nobody gonna ever pay attention to you unless you're the Rock, man. You know what I mean? But if you ain't the Rock, you better help move some chairs. You want to show them what your work ethic is, and then they're gonna say, wow, I want to see what their work ethic is in the ring. And that's what I teach these guys. Like, just ain't nobody wants you, like, nobody. And I always tell the guys, like, nobody needs you around. Really, there's so many people out there that are willing to take your spot and ready to go and probably do a better job at it. And that's how I feel. Like there's other schools that people can go to, so I got to work hard and try to help these students out and make them the best. build and the secret. You want to know the secret, Josh, to the wrestling school? I'll tell you straight out. I try to tell everybody.
Sure.
Get a curriculum. Everybody wants to start just like in wrestling, just like in regular school. You want to start at first grade. You don't want to start in first grade and be with sixth graders. That's intimidating. That's scary.
Yeah.
And that's how it is with pro wrestling. That's how I started. It's like, oh, power bomb. Okay. I'm not coming back no more. But everybody wants to start first grade, second grade, third grade, fourth grade, have a curriculum. And I think that'll make so many more students more willing to go to your school, even if you have to wait and tell them, hey, September 3rd is when we're doing it. A lot of guys want to take their money now. Hey, take their money now and tell them, hey, this class starts September 3rd. And I think that helps out so many people, even the students, because they feel so comfortable as we go. And everybody knows the same, because I know when I went in there, when I went in, it was about, hey, someone's better than me. I want to be just as good as them, but it's intimidating, for a lot of people to come into wrestling school. So I think that would help out a lot of wrestling schools. So I'm giving you my secrets right here.
There you go. People that are watching this, Joey Kaos just gave you the secret on how to set up a good school.
Yeah.
Now you got to try and build a school that can compete with Santino Brothers. Good luck, because it's going to be tough competing with it.
And I'll help you out. Yeah, I'll help you out. I'm here to, yeah,
But Joey, in the meantime, like, how can people, keep up with the Zoom classes when the school reopens, or just want to follow and hear more from you? How can people look you up on social media?
So check us out on Twitter at Santino Bros on Twitter. I think it's at Santino_Bros on Instagram. And then Facebook, Facebook/Santino Bros. Check out all of our social medias, and then don't forget SantinoBros.net. For all of our upcoming class, our Zoom class right now is starting September 7th. It's getting full. I'm coming soon to closing it down. So if you're thinking about it, sign up now. And then we are optimistic and hoping and praying that everything works well with California and the county, and that we will be able to reopen our brick and mortar school, our building, January 2021, and we'll look to get it right started with a physical beginners class starting Monday, January 4th. So check everything out on SantinoBros.net.
Check out all the Santino Bros action. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Josh_Tariff. Please like, subscribe, share this interview. Other people that are aspiring to, whether it's go to wrestling school, start a wrestling school, that are planning on being in it for the long haul. This is the type of advice you need from this guy, Joey Kaos. He's always been a good guy. He brings great students and was kind enough to hang out with me today. Joey, thank you for hanging out. Thank you all for watching, and we will see you guys next week.
Thank you, Josh.